I caught my wife grinding on my boss during the couple's salsa night, and she smiled when she saw me. They say a cruise is the perfect escape. Sunsets, salt air, no deadlines. Just a floating paradise with open bars and closed doors. But let me tell you something. If you trap snakes on a boat, all you get is a front row seat when they start to slither. My name is Devin Carter. I'm 40 years old, sales director for a national electronics firm. Quietly competent, decent money, 2 decades climbing ladders I didn't build. Natalie, my wife, she's 38. To the world, she's polished, elegant, CEO wife material. Perfect teeth, perfect posture, perfect smile. Behind closed doors, she's colder than the air conditioning in our stateroom. We've been married for 8 years. No kids. Our careers were our children, I guess. We made rituals out of red wine, Sunday jogs, birthday steak dinners with no candles. Efficient, polite, dead inside. But you don't realize the marriage is a corpse until it starts to stink. The company cruise was supposed to be a reset. Caribbean luxury, team-building games, 2 mini fruity cocktails. A corporate bribe wrapped in sunshine. Grant McMillan, my boss, regional VP, king of the polished snakes, made a speech on the first night about synergy and vision, and I tuned him out halfway through his metaphors about rising tides. Natalie was radiant that night. Red dress, bare shoulders. She didn't look at me once during the toast. Day 3 was couples salsa night. I didn't want to go. My knees are too stiff for sexy dancing, and Natalie hates when I miss the beat. But she insisted, said it would look good. That was her phrase for everything now. It'll look good if we show up together. Grant will be there. Of course he would. The ballroom was packed. Tacky tropical lights, a live band, and enough perfume to suffocate a small dog. Pairs lined up. Laughter. Spilled rum. The instructor clapped and shouted about hips. I held Natalie's hand as we stepped onto the floor. Her palm was dry, cool. No smile. Halfway through the first song, she shifted away from me. You're off again, she said under her breath. Just follow me. I tried. God knows I tried. But I'm not built for rhythm. Natalie spun herself instead, laughing too loudly. Then the instructor called for a partner swap. I ended up with a woman from HR who smelled like coconut lotion and apologized with her eyes. Natalie floated toward Grant like she was weightless. He took her hand. They moved in sync. Effortless. Grant whispered something in her ear. She laughed. He twirled her, then placed his hand on her lower back. Too low. I waited for her to flinch. Step back. Say something. She didn't. Instead, she leaned in. I felt the breath leave my chest. A slow burn started in my stomach. The kind of anger that doesn't explode. It simmers. Bubbles. Then chills. The song ended. The instructor clapped. People cheered. Grant looked straight at me across the dance floor. Raised his eyebrows like it was a joke we were all in on. Natalie turned toward me with a smile. That polished, photo-ready smile. The one she uses on clients. Not husbands. She didn't look guilty. Or embarrassed. Just amused. I walked off the dance floor. Found the open bar. The bartender asked what I wanted. Something strong, I said. My hands were shaking. She found me 10 minutes later, holding a whiskey I hadn't touched. You're being dramatic, she said, touching my arm. It's just dancing. You were grinding on my boss. God, Devin. It's salsa. That's how the dance works. You laughed when he whispered to you. I laugh when people talk to me. It's polite. I stared at her. Really stared. Do you think I'm an idiot? She pulled her hand back. Her face hardened. You always do this, she hissed. Make scenes out of nothing. And then she walked away. Not a single backward glance. That was the moment. Not the dancing. Not the laugh. Not even Grant's hand. It was the way she walked away. Like I was nothing. I stood there in that glossy ballroom, surrounded by plastic leis and forced laughter, and realized something I hadn't wanted to admit for years. My wife didn't just stop loving me. She started loving someone else. And I think I knew exactly who. Her phone buzzed at 1:14 a.m. That's what woke me. Not the vibration itself, but the light. That soft, treacherous glow cutting through the dark like a whisper you weren't meant to hear. I rolled over in our stateroom bed. Natalie wasn't beside me. The sheets on her side were cold. I sat up slowly, letting my eyes adjust. The bathroom door was open. Empty. Her sandals were gone. So was her clutch. The cruise ship was silent except for the hum of engines and the occasional echo of late-night laughter from above deck. I slipped on a t-shirt, grabbed the keycard, and stepped out into the hallway. The corridor was dim. A few doors had the Do Not Disturb tags swinging gently. Couples back from the gala. Some probably too drunk to notice if their spouse slipped out. I noticed. I walked. Past the elevator. Past the ice machine. Past two teens making out in a corner alcove who broke apart when they saw me. Deck 7. That's where the VIP suites were. Grant's room was there. I only remembered because the welcome champagne they gave him was twice the size of mine. I rounded the corner quietly, heart pounding like a war drum. Then I saw her. Natalie. Hair slightly messy. Lips too red. That damn red dress still clinging to her like sin. She stepped out of Grant's suite. Alone. The door clicked softly behind her. She didn't see me at first. She was fixing her hair in the hallway mirror, smoothing her dress. Then she turned and froze. Our eyes locked. My mouth didn't open. I couldn't even swallow. She didn't flinch. Didn't stutter. Just gave me this small, calm smile. I couldn't sleep, she said. So you went to Grant's room? She walked past me like it was nothing. No shame. No guilt. Like I was the one out of place. He had an espresso machine. I wanted coffee. At 1 in the morning, she stopped, turned, met my eyes with that same cool composure she used in boardrooms. I didn't realize I needed permission to get a drink. I followed her back down the hallway, my chest tight with every step. Back in our room, she went straight to the bathroom. Didn't say another word. I sat on the bed. Her phone was still on the nightstand. Lit up. I looked at the screen. A message from an unsaved number. That was dangerous. And worth it. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Just stared at that screen like it might rewrite itself if I waited long enough. But it didn't. She came out of the bathroom 10 minutes later, wearing a robe, towel in her hair, acting like nothing had happened. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. We climbed into bed. Back to back. Like strangers with a shared mortgage. And that message burned itself into my brain, word by word. Dangerous. Worth it. It was 8:03 a.m. when Jared Lynn slid into the booth across from me at the ship's breakfast cafe, uninvited. He had the smirk of a man who knew something. "Morning, boss," he said, grabbing a croissant like we were old friends. "Sleep well." I didn't look up. I stirred my coffee. My hands were steady, but only because I was forcing them to be. Jared was 26. Cocky. Junior sales associate. He wore cologne like it was armor and used words like synergy too much. Always hovering around Grant. Always watching. "Cut the bullshit," I said quietly. "What do you want?" He grinned. Tore a bite of pastry. "That depends," he said through a chew. "On how much you care about optics." I met his eyes. "Say what you mean." He pulled out his phone. Placed it face down on the table like a dealer about to flip a card. "Security footage," he said casually. "From Deck 7. Last night. Grant's suite. Ring any bells?" The air between us felt like static. "What do you want, Jared?" "Promotion. Title bump. Maybe sales manager. When we get back." I laughed, short and bitter. "You trying to blackmail me on a cruise ship?" He leaned in. "I'm offering you a choice. Either I send this to HR the moment we dock, or you make sure my next review is glowing. Up to you." I stared at him. Really stared. This wasn't some scared kid bluffing. He was calm, calculated, and he had leverage. I picked up my coffee, took a sip, then looked him dead in the eye. "You done?" He smirked. "For now." And just like that, he got up, whistled as he walked away, left me there with my half-drunk coffee and a mind spinning in 1,000 directions. I knew Natalie was cheating. Now Jared knew too. And Grant. He was probably sipping champagne in his suite, untouchable as ever. But in that moment, something shifted inside me. The betrayal burned. The humiliation scorched. But under the ash, something colder emerged. I wasn't going to play defense anymore. Blackmail cuts both ways. I spent the next morning wearing the same polite smile I always did. I laughed at dumb jokes, shook hands, sat through a workshop on digital innovation, while my mind played scenes like a surveillance reel. Jared thought he had me. So did Natalie. So did Grant. But here's the thing about people like me. We don't rage. We document. After lunch, I made a quiet detour to the ship's security office. Still had my corporate badge clipped to my belt. One of those little perks that lets you into places others don't even know exist. Lost an item. I told the staffer, a guy named Alex with a sunburn and tired eyes. Need to see if it turned up on any of the hall cameras. He barely looked up. Deck number 7. Hallway near the VIP suites. Last night. Around 1 a.m. He grunted. We keep footage for 72 hours. What's the item? A watch, I said. Sentimental. He motioned me over. Loaded up the feed. And there it was. Natalie, leaving Grant's room. The angle wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Her dress. Her hair. The way she fixed herself in the mirror. And then me, standing at the end of the hallway. It hit harder seeing it like that. Cold. Objective. Undeniable. Alex squinted. That her? Yeah, I said. That's her. Want a copy? I hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah. USB if you've got one. He handed me a flash drive 10 minutes later, still warm from the upload. Hope you find your watch. I pocketed it. I already did. Back in my room, I opened my laptop and watched the footage again. Paused. Rewound. Screenshotted. Then I opened my Notes app and started building a file. Operation. Toast. Names. Dates. Locations. Timelines. Grant wasn't careful. Natalie wasn't discreet. Jared was greedy. I didn't have a plan yet, but I was building something. I wasn't the betrayed husband anymore. I was the archivist of their downfall. There's something satisfying about a plan with layers. The best revenge isn't rage, it's restraint. I found Jared on the sun deck later that afternoon. He was stretched out on a lounger, sunglasses on, sipping something with a pineapple wedge. He looked like a man who thought he'd already won. I pulled up a chair beside him. Nice day, I said. He didn't even flinch. Just took another sip and smirked. For some of us, yeah. I let that hang in the air. Then I handed him a small tumbler of bourbon. Neat. Peace offering. He raised an eyebrow. What's the occasion? Just thinking about the gala, I said casually. Final night. The captain's toast. You going? Wouldn't miss it. I'm giving a speech. Short one. Jared laughed. Didn't know you were the sentimental type. I'm full of surprises. He clinked his glass against mine. Can't wait. As he sipped, I watched his face. Still cocky. Still convinced I was playing defense. But I'd already flipped the board. That night, in our cabin, Natalie was humming as she changed into her dinner dress. Acting normal again. Like the hallway never happened. Like I hadn't seen the message. Like everything was still under her control. You're quiet tonight, she said, checking her lipstick. Just thinking about the toast, I said, trying to get the words right. She paused, turned to me slowly. You're giving a toast? Grant asked me to. Said I've been with the company long enough. It's tradition. She looked surprised, then smiled. That's sweet. Just don't make it too long. People will be drunk. Oh, it'll be unforgettable. She left it at that. Slipped on her heels. Sprayed perfume. Kissed my cheek without looking me in the eyes. I watched her walk out the door. She didn't notice the USB I slipped into the inside pocket of my blazer. That night, I drank slowly. Laughed louder than usual. Played the role of devoted husband like it was second nature. Jared kept looking at me from across the dining hall, waiting for signs of panic. But I didn't panic. I planned. Because the toast was coming. And I'd already rehearsed every word. Paradise has a strange way of peeling masks off. Natalie had always been good at control. Her tone, her posture, even her silence was engineered. But the cracks were starting to show. 3 days until the gala. She'd been quieter. Not distant. No, that would be too obvious. Just measured. A little too careful. Like she could sense something shifting beneath her feet, but wasn't sure what it was. I gave her nothing. We took selfies by the pool. Attended a cooking demo. I laughed at her jokes. Kissed her cheek in front of Grant. She flinched every time I mentioned the toast. How's the speech coming? She asked one night while we lay in bed. Backs touching, but worlds apart. Almost done. Still deciding how honest I want to be. A pause. Honest about what? The year. The people. Loyalty. That kind of thing. I felt her body tense beside me. Don't get too sentimental, she said lightly. No one wants tears before dessert. Not tears, I said. Just truth. The next morning, I pretended to nap on a lounger while she made a quick stop by the spa. She didn't go to the spa. She went to deck 7. Again, I followed. Not too close. Just enough to see her disappear behind Grant's door. When she came back an hour later, her hair was damp, face flushed. She didn't see me. That night, over dinner, I finally broke the silence. Do you love him? Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. What? Grant, do you love him? She set the fork down. Slowly. Are you drunk? No. Then you're being paranoid. I tilted my head. Because I asked a question? Because you're making up stories. So you haven't been in his suite? Devin, she snapped, low and sharp. You're spiraling. You need to get a grip. Maybe lay off the rum. I nodded slowly, took a bite of my steak, chewed, swallowed. You're right, I said calmly. I'll just let it all play out. She didn't know what to do with that. She just stared at me for a moment, eyes searching my face for some sign of how much I knew. But I'd already stopped bleeding. Now I was sharpening knives. You ever watch a storm roll in from a distance? How the sky stays calm, the waves gentle, until suddenly they're not. That's what the captain's dinner felt like. Calm before the impact. Everyone dressed like they had something to prove. Grant wore a tux with a blue pocket square, matching Natalie's dress. Subtle, but deliberate. Like they wanted people to wonder, but not ask. I wore black. Tie tight. Cufflinks sharp enough to draw blood. Natalie looped her arm through mine like we were still us. Like she hadn't spent 2 nights this week in someone else's bed. The ballroom shimmered. Strings played. Champagne flowed. People laughed a little too loud. Posed for photos with the captain like he was royalty. I handed the photographer a USB drive when Natalie wasn't looking. Play this before dessert, I said quietly. Right after the toast. He raised an eyebrow. Corporate highlight reel? Exactly. He nodded and slipped it into his pocket. Across the room, Jared caught my eye. Gave me a little salute with his wine glass. He thought he was walking into a promotion. Grant laughed at something Natalie whispered. His hand lingered a second too long on her lower back. I clinked glasses with both of them. Big night, I said. Hope you're both ready for the toast. Grant grinned. We're all ears. Good, I said, and downed my drink. The captain gave his welcome speech. People clapped. Dessert menus arrived. Then a soft ding from the mic stand. I stood, glass in hand. If I could have your attention for a moment. The chatter faded. Eyes turned. Natalie smiled at me. Still confident. Still playing her part. I just want to say a few words. About loyalty. About ambition. About the kinds of things that really float this ship. A few polite chuckles. Some nights are unforgettable. They leave a mark. Not because of what was said, but because of what was shown. I nodded toward the AV booth. So tonight, instead of a speech, I thought I'd show you. The projector hummed to life. Natalie turned her head. Then I saw it, that flicker of panic. Like her brain had just caught up. Flashback. 2 days before the captain's dinner. I knocked on the small, unmarked door behind the main ballroom. The sign read, authorized personnel only, but authority was just a matter of presentation. The AV tech, Jonas, was mid-bite into a sandwich when he opened up. Late 30s, cargo shorts, headset around his neck. Help you? Devin Carter, I said, flashing my badge. Corporate. We're prepping a short video for the captain's toast night. Surprise clip. I was told I could drop it off here. He blinked. No one told me about that. I smiled. It's internal. Last-minute edit. Just need this cued for after the main speech. Before dessert. I held up the USB. Jonas sighed and waved me in. The room smelled like coffee and stress. Monitors lined one wall. Surveillance feeds flickered across 2 of them. I caught a glimpse of the pool deck, the casino, and one hallway, deck 7. He took the drive, plugged it in, skimmed the file names. Highlight_reel_final. MP4 foot? That's the one. Is this one of those prank videos? We had a guy last month rickroll the captain. I smiled slow and calm. Something like that. But I promise, it'll be unforgettable. He raised an eyebrow. This gonna get me fired? Only if the dessert's late. He snorted. You corporate guys are weird. Just thorough. I watched him drag the file into the queue list. Set the timestamp. You want it with audio? Absolutely. Full volume. He nodded. You're all set. I left the room with a polite nod. Didn't look back. Because in 48 hours, that USB wasn't just a file. It was a grenade. The lights dimmed. Forks paused midair. Glasses froze mid-clink. And for a moment, everything held its breath. I stood at the center of the ballroom, glass in hand, every eye on me. Natalie smiled from our table like this was just another company formality. She still didn't know. Jared leaned forward in his seat, waiting for me to crumble. Grant swirled his wine. I cleared my throat. To ambition, I said. A few scattered claps. To loyalty. A few nods. Natalie's smile tightened. And to unforgettable nights. Then the screen behind me flickered to life. The room turned. Natalie's eyes shifted, slow and uncertain. The first frame was grainy. A hallway. Night vision tint. Deck 7. Then her. Natalie Carter. Red dress. Bare shoulders. Slipping out of Grant McMillan's suite. Alone. Fixing her hair in the mirror. Then me. Frozen at the hallway's end. There was a collective inhale. A vacuumed silence. And then the audio. Her laugh. The message. That was dangerous. And worth it. Natalie's face turned white. Her champagne flute trembled in her hand. Grant shifted in his seat, jaw tightening. Jared's smirk collapsed. People started murmuring. Someone gasped. Another whispered, "Is this real?" Then a voice from the back. "That's her, right? That's Natalie." The footage looped. Natalie fixing her hair. The text message flashing on screen. Grant's door closing behind her. I stood in the middle of it all. Silent. Still. Letting them drown in their own noise. The captain glanced toward the AV booth, panicked, but it was too late. The damage was already carved into the air. And I didn't flinch. I just raised my glass again. To transparency. Silence. The kind that suffocates. Then a single sound. Glass shattering. Someone dropped their drink. And then all hell broke loose. People weren't whispering anymore. They were talking. Loudly. Pointing. Phones were out. Recording. Flashing. Natalie was frozen. Her hand hovered in the air, still clutching the stem of her champagne flute, like she couldn't decide if she should throw it or drop it. Then Grant's wife screamed. I'd almost forgotten she was here. Melanie McMillan. Petite, dignified, corporate law quiet. Until now. You son of a bitch. She lunged across the table, hurling her wine straight into Grant's face. He jerked back, dripping. People gasped, some clapped. Grant stood, red with rage and Cabernet, trying to wipe his face with a cloth napkin like that would fix anything. Natalie finally found her voice. Devin. I turned to face her slowly. What did you do? She whispered. Her face was pale, mouth trembling. That perfect exterior cracking in real time. I gave a toast, I said. You humiliated me. No, I said, voice calm. You did that all by yourself. I just pressed play. Grant tried to move toward the projector booth, barking something at the AV tech. But 2 security officers stepped in. Firm. Professional. Crew staff, not company. Sir, please return to your seat. I'll have your job, he shouted at the tech. No, you won't, I said. Because I knew something Grant didn't. He wasn't the only one with eyes in the room. Corporate compliance had already received the files. From me. A full 24 hours ago. This was just the public version. Natalie stumbled forward, mascara smudging. Please, we need to talk. We talked, I said. You said I was paranoid. Not here. Not like this. You made your choices. I made mine. Someone in the crowd muttered, Holy sh**t. Another voice, closer. Is this real life? I raised my glass one final time. No words. Just a nod. Then I sat back down, took a sip of my wine, and let them burn. Grant tried to storm the projector booth. Security didn't even flinch. 2 officers flanked him like bookends. Hands firm, expressions blank. One tapped his earpiece. McMillan, stand down. Grant's face was fire, red, wet, trembling. His tie was loose. His illusion shattered. This is slander. He barked. This is corporate sabotage. The AV tech, Jonas, held up both hands. Hey man, I just hit play. Natalie was behind me now. Her voice cracked. Devin, please. We can fix this. Not here. Just come with me. Please. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Because this wasn't a conversation anymore. This was an execution. The room never fully recovered. The music didn't start again. Dessert never arrived. Some people tried to leave discreetly. Others lingered like it was a live show. Natalie stood in the wreckage of her image. Dress perfect. Face wrecked. Grant tried to pull her aside, but she shook him off. That part was over. The perfect couple act. The strategic flirtation. The affair dressed up in ambition. All of it, dead in the water. I sat down at our table, poured myself another glass of wine. The bottle was chilled, untouched. Jared hovered nearby, eyes darting like a cornered rat. He tried to approach me. Hey, look, man. I didn't know you were gonna. I held up a hand. Stop. He froze. You wanted a promotion? You're about to get one. He blinked. Wait, seriously? I leaned forward. Because when we dock, Grant's out. HR's already got the files. Compliance too. And you? You're going to be the interim puppet they plug in to avoid a PR nightmare. He looked confused. Scared. You played yourself, Jared. But congratulations. You won. Then I leaned back. Took a slow sip. Natalie sat down across from me a moment later. Quiet. Shaking. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. But you did. She swallowed hard. What happens now? Now. I gestured to the wreckage. The empty glasses. The stunned faces. The silence. Now you enjoy the rest of the cruise. The sea was calm the next morning. Too calm. I sat alone on the top deck, coffee in hand, sunglasses on, watching waves roll by like they hadn't just witnessed a career execution the night before. People avoided me now. Not out of malice. Out of awe. Whispers followed me down corridors. Some shook my hand like I'd survived a war. A few asked for copies of the footage. I ignored them all. Natalie didn't come back to the cabin. I found her that morning in the ship's library of all places, sitting by a window, staring blankly at a travel book she wasn't reading. She looked up as I passed. I didn't stop. She didn't call after me. Grant was a ghost. He'd been pulled from the speaker list for the remaining business panels. His name scrubbed from the cruise itinerary overnight. A quiet corporate erasure. Word was he was confined to his cabin. HR and legal were on satellite calls by noon. I knew this because I'd started them. I sent a formal complaint to corporate ethics using the secure company VPN. Detailed, professional, unemotional. Attached were the security footage, the text message, and a full timeline of Natalie and Grant's behavior, along with Jared's attempted blackmail. I copied legal. HR, internal audit. 5 hours later, I got a reply. Thank you for your detailed report. We are initiating an internal investigation immediately. Grant was done. Natalie? She wasn't even mentioned. She wasn't an employee. Just collateral damage with good posture and poor judgment. Jared texted me around sunset. Holy shit. You're a legend. I didn't respond. Legend wasn't what I wanted to be. Free was. That night, I had dinner alone. Ordered steak and lobster. Wore a different watch. A cheaper one. It felt lighter. No one bothered me. No one had to. I'd already said everything I needed to say. She found me on deck 5. Right outside the gym, of all places. Hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked like someone who'd cried in a supply closet. 5 minutes, she said. That's all I'm asking. I said nothing. Just nodded. We walked in silence to the starboard lounge. Empty except for the sound of ocean wind and a single bartender pretending not to listen. She sat first. I stayed standing. You humiliated me, she said. No apology. Just accusation. I just played your highlight reel. She flinched. I made a mistake. You made a series of decisions. You don't understand. Don't insult me. Her lip trembled. For once, she didn't have a script. Grant, it wasn't what you think. You slept with my boss on a company cruise, Natalie. I'm not sure how many different ways that can be interpreted. It wasn't about you. That's the only honest thing you've said. She stood now, pacing. We were drifting apart. You know that. So you drifted into his suite? I was lonely. I needed to feel seen. Then you should have booked a therapy session, not a betrayal. She stopped pacing. Her shoulders dropped. We can fix this. I still love you. You love what I gave you. She stepped closer, reached for my hand. I didn't give it. Ivy said you were writing a speech about loyalty. Is this how loyal people act, Devin? This is how people act when they stop letting themselves be stepped on. She blinked, tears forming now. Please, don't let this be the end. I stepped back. This was over before the footage. That was just the eulogy. She looked like she might collapse. Like her legs didn't believe the moment. You're serious. You made it easy. She tried one last time. We can go to counseling. Rebuild. I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman I once planned forever with. And I said, there's nothing left to fix. We docked at sunrise. You'd think stepping off a luxury cruise would feel like relief. But for me, it was closure. Grant didn't show his face that morning. Word had spread. He'd officially resigned sometime in the early hours, quietly, strategically. A corporate sacrifice to stop the bleeding. HR had already begun the damage control campaign. No official emails. Just a shift in the itinerary and a sudden gap in leadership. Jared? He stood a little straighter. He'd been summoned for a transitionary discussion with the execs before we even hit the gangway. Interim sales director. Exactly what he blackmailed me for. But the cost? He now worked for the guy who just outplayed 3 people at once. Natalie packed in silence. No tears. No drama. Just methodical folds and zipped bags. I left the cabin before she finished. No goodbye. No note. I walked off that ship lighter than I'd felt in years. No ring. No guilt. Just a suitcase and a future. An hour after landing, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Saw the footage. I'm with a rival firm. We'd love to talk. Opportunity. Just like that. Grant's implosion created a vacuum. And I was the guy who kept calm while the ship burned. Jared might get the title, but I'd get the real offer. Later that night, as I checked into a hotel miles from home, I sent one last message. To Jared, enjoy your new boss. You're welcome. I turned off my phone, took a deep breath, and smiled. 3 days after landfall, it went viral. Not on corporate sites, not in newsletters. TikTok. Someone at the captain's dinner had filmed it. My toast, the footage, the crowd's reaction. Shaky cam, bad angle, but the sound was crystal clear. To ambition, to loyalty, and unforgettable nights. Then the projector. Natalie's laugh echoing across the ballroom. The clip hit 1 million views in 8 hours. By the next morning, every outlet was running with it. Cruise catastrophe. CEO's affair exposed mid-toast. The ultimate revenge toast. Husband airs cheating wife's affair with boss in front of entire company. Corporate cruise gone wild. Watch this husband turn the gala into a scandal. I didn't leak it. Didn't have to. People love betrayal. They worship revenge. HR called me in a panic. PR wanted statements. Legal asked if I was planning to sue. I wasn't. I'd already won. Natalie texted once. Did you do this? I left her on read. Grant vanished from the public eye. His LinkedIn quietly went dark. Last seen pursuing personal development. Jared? He tried to message me. Said the spotlight was too much. That I'd made him a joke. Next time, don't threaten someone smarter than you. I took the job with the rival firm. Better title. Better pay. Better coast. Started over. No Natalie. No ghosts. Just ocean air and a new office with a locked door. The clip still circles the internet. Reddit dissected every line. People used my quote as a meme. I saw someone wearing it on a shirt. I just played your highlight reel. And the final shot of the video, the one that always goes viral? It's me, standing in the middle of that ballroom, holding my glass, smirking into the camera, as the crowd gasps.